Welcome to When Mothers Lead, a podcast created by Motherful, a soulful grassroots collective of single mothers. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Lisa.
And we will discuss how you can be a part of this movement and what the world will look like when mothers lead.
I see the mothers marching. I hear the mothers singing. I feel the mothers grieving. I see the mothers leading. I hear the mothers shouting. I see the mothers dancing. I feel the mothers healing. I see the mothers leading. I see the mothers leading.
Hello and welcome to the When Mothers Lead Matriarchy Now podcast. My name is Heidi House.
And this is Lisa Woodward.
And welcome. And we're so happy today to introduce you to our beautiful friend, Liz Brown, who is an incredible mother leader here in Columbus, Ohio. And just want to let you know, Liz is a former member of our Columbus City Council. She was on the council for 7 years. And she is also the former executive director of the Ohio Women's Public Policy Network. And she is the current CEO of YWCA Columbus, which is an incredible organization, and she's going to share with us so much more about that. Welcome, Liz. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Lisa. I am thrilled to be talking with you today.
Awesome. And you've got the beautiful Halloween color on, which is also apparently the brand color for YWCA. So.
That's right. We are a specific color of orange called persimmon. And that is our color brand across the nation. You should see National Conference. There is more persimmon than anyone knows what to do with.
I love it. I love orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. So, Liz, can you tell us more about YWCA's work? And, I know you recently transitioned from Columbus City Council and from your other role. And can you tell us what you're most excited about at YWCA? Also, I forgot to mention that Liz is a mother of 3 children. I forgot to say that, so that's super important. And share with us what's up at YWCA and why you are excited to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So YWCA Columbus has 3 pillars of our work. Housing, so both emergency shelter and permanent supportive shelter, as well as education. So that's really childcare programming of all levels, school-aged and early childhood, and then social justice. YWCA across the country, our mission is eliminating racism and empowering women. It's so important to us that mission is known, that it's actually part of our logo. You don't see YWCA without seeing eliminating racism and empowering women, because we know to our core that one is not possible without the other. And that's what guides our work. So here in Columbus, our work to eliminate racism and empower women focuses on those 3 pillars that I mentioned. It's been a really beautiful transition for me from public policy work on city council into this really practitioner role as running our YWCA, in part because the issues we work on are the ones I was particularly motivated around in Columbus City Council, but in part because it is just a whole new way of doing the work, right? So we think about the policies that support families. I also think about the policies that support our employees, that helps them thrive in their lives outside of work, bring their best selves to work, and improve our residents and our families and our parents' everyday lives. So it's been such a great transition into this work. And it's a real, not to be cliched, but it's a real honor to do the work of YWCA.
Yeah. We're so impressed with what the YWCA is doing, and we're so excited that you're there in that role now. And I'm curious, just from a perspective of you're a change maker, right? You're in these positions so that you can make change, is what I would imagine,
Thank you. That's
right?
very kind.
Of course.
And we're doing the same thing with Motherful and,
Yes.
in the direct service, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what it's been like for you to go from kind of the policy stuff, not that you're not still working on policy stuff, but I would imagine that this is more like the direct boots on the ground role for you, as opposed to that. What is that like?
Yeah.
That shift?
I think this will resonate with both of you, that in my prior work doing public policy, so often when my job was done, right, when the policy was produced, the funding was allocated, that is actually when the work began.
Right.
Right. And that's what it is for Motherful. If you advocate for certain, policies to shift so that your work can be more powerful. You advocate for funding so that your work can reach more people. But that inflection point between the policy and your work, there's so much that happens in that inflection point, and then it's so powerful what can be done after that. So for me, I've really loved embracing that shift in my focus and understanding more deeply how powerful the work that comes next is, right? But what's important, and I think is YWCA and Motherful share in common, is that we are a human services organization. And then we are also explicitly, since our founding in 1886, we are also a social justice organization. We serve people on the front lines and we fight for them in the State House, in City Hall, on the streets if need be. And we are so much better at either one of those things because we do the other, right? We serve people better because we fight for what they need too. And then we fight for people better because we know what it means to serve them. So that's a really beautiful, and it's a I think marker of a highly successful nonprofit, is to be able to use your voice while serving, while delivering on basic needs.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's beautiful. And so can you tell us a little bit about like your beginnings and like, how did you get into public policy? I think we've talked about this a little bit, just, outside of here, but I'm curious, like young Liz Brown, like where did you start on this path?
Yeah.
Well, I was raised in a house that was very political, and because of that, I always believed in government. Right? Like my dad's been in office my whole life, with the exception of a few years in the middle.
Okay.
He was elected to office when he was 21.
Who's your dad?
Wow.
Yeah. Sherrod Brown.
Oh, that's your dad. Okay.
Yes.
That's our senator.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Got it.
And so I was raised, I adored him. I mean, I still adore him, right? I have always adored my dad. And I saw government work in the way that it was supposed to. So when I was little, I would go to my parents divorced when I was very young. So I spent time with my mom and time with my dad. My sister and I did. And so when we were with my dad, it was like we were all in on whatever he was doing. And I saw politics at work. And, I saw people approach him and disagree with him. And he would talk to them and serve them as his constituents like anyone else, right? I saw people come up to him. I have a very, very clear memory of being maybe 11 years old, mid-90s, leaving church one day, and a man stopped my dad and thanked him. Just said, "Thank you." And deeply I could see in his eyes the earnestness behind that thank you and the depth of it. And afterwards, I asked my dad what that was about. And he said, "I took a really tough vote. I was one of very few people who voted in a way that really mattered to this man." And he explained to me what gay marriage was. And he had taken a vote to oppose the Defense of Marriage Act, which was a Karl Rove strategy in the mid-90s to try to beat Democrats, basically, by putting them on the record about gay marriage in the mid-90s. It was a scare tactic to sink Democrats like my dad. He wanted to bait him into deserting his base, right? And voting to uphold defense of marriage, or, voting, if he voted no, then they wanted to actually oust him from office based on that. And so what I saw was that a simple vote, a simple policy written down, matters to a real person. Laws, policy are never black and white words on a page. They matter to real people. They change lives for the better or the worse. And I also saw what it means to stick with your principles, right? And that's what my dad always did. So I had this belief as a young person that policy matters and the government can be a force for good. And so I think that really has driven my interest in advocacy. I'm not in government right now, but I do believe in the importance of advocacy and public policy because I know its power and I'm optimistic about its power.
Well, I still can't believe I didn't know that Sherrod Brown was your father. And I also love that I love that I didn't know that. So that's wonderful.
I brought it up now. Sorry.
No, actually I brought it up. I mean, I asked and of course that's important, that background. And so you went to studied, what did you study?
So I studied English I was an English major in college. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write about the world as a way to contribute to it. I had an experience between high school and college where I was an AmeriCorps member with City Year. Did that in Philadelphia. And it was like there were all these things, I think, kind of compounding to drive me towards more of a policy advocacy future, but I loved writing, so I kept pursuing that for a little while. When I was an AmeriCorps member between high school and college, I was in classrooms, and I really think that it was a formative year for me because that intersection between public policy and people's lives is nowhere more evident than inside a classroom with students, right? And it's not just about sort of the textbook funding or the teacher-student ratio. It's not just education policy that affects children in the classroom, but it's all the other policy we have. It's wage policy, it's housing policy, right? Because this is parent stability, housing stability. It's resources that kids can get in their neighborhoods. All of that actually comes home to roost in a classroom. So I gained yet another layer of sort of love and respect for what policy should be, I guess, because it really is failing inside so many schools. And so I did that before college, but I studied English, got a job at a magazine, and really did give it a shot. I was like, I want to be a writer. And after doing it a year, I realized that what I actually wanted was to be more in the policy, advocacy, government space. And so left the magazine, started working at the Ohio State House, moved back. I was in New York City, worked at the Ohio State House, and started to sort of go that direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. And are you still involved in policy, or are you kind of taking a break right now? I mean, like outside of your role there.
Very much. I mean, very much. We have our social justice work at YWCA is really grounded in racial equity work, justice, equity, and belonging trainings, leadership development, like developing leaders who want to make their mark and want to make social change. But then it's also very much grounded in advocacy. So we as an organization, and sometimes it's me and sometimes it's our advocacy director, but it's all under the banner of this organization that I get to lead. We testify at the State House. We certainly are involved in policy in the sense of funding for our shelter operations and fighting for shelter to be funded in a more holistic way. Our shelter system's really underfunded in our community, in many communities, but definitely ours too. So we're fighting on that funding side, but we're also fighting on other kinds of policies that aren't necessarily related to direct money for our organization. So, for example, we're a coalition partner with Honesty for Ohio Education, Honesty for Ohio Education, and they're fighting for truth and history in our curriculum as the standard across our state, right? They are not in a defensive crouch over the folks who are attacking honesty and true history being taught in our schools. They are going on the offense and saying, this is what we should do. And they're working on a bill introduction, and they're trying to move this kind of offensive thinking around what our kids deserve to learn, quite frankly. So we're a coalition partner moving that work along.
Beautiful.
So it's great what we get to do as an organization.
Yay. Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
It's great. And you know, we do a lot of childcare work. We have 22 childcare sites at YWCA. Wow. So I'm also really, as an organization, we have a lot on the line when it comes to funding for early childhood education and childcare overall. I have a personal passion around this because, I am a parent, I am a mother.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and we have all lived firsthand the insanity of our childcare landscape. And then, you know, I also, as an organization, there is just a lot of work to do to put our lens and our branding, our mark on how public policy would move forward when it comes to childcare.
That's beautiful. So when you became a mother, how long have you been a mother now?
So my oldest just turned 8.
8 years.
Yes.
9 years, mothering for 9 years, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How has mothering changed you? How has mothering changed your work?
Yeah.
Your impact.
Well, I think mothering has changed me in every way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Truly. I think that motherhood has made everything more urgent to me, right? That I think I've been radicalized in the way that motherhood does, not so much because I hold a different set of beliefs, but because I believe in the urgency of now. You understand that as a parent in a new way. You don't want to leave any other parents high and dry the way that too many of us have been left for so long. And I think that urgency becomes very clear. So mothering has changed me in that way. I think also, mothering has just personally taught me so much about how to lead, right? How to understand the humanity of everyone in a deep way. Motherhood tests you, right? My mother there's a great quote by a poet, and I'm forgetting her name, which I feel like is sacrilege when you're quoting a writer not to remember their name. But it is a quote that says, she's writing about her mother, and she says her mother is she whose heart is my heart's quiet home. Something like that, right? And it's this place where your heart just feels at peace. That's what my mother has given me, still gives me to this day. And as challenging as it is to have my kiddos are 8, 5, and 2. And, believe me, our house is not always a quiet home.
Right.
But no way.
I'm not always the pinnacle of gentle parenting. As much as I want to be. But I do take it very seriously. And it is my aspiration always to kind of be for my children what my mother has and still is for me. And I think it's changed my leadership to understand that people test you and circumstances test you. And just like you feel like you're never going to get through, your third middle of the night feeding when the baby is up again, and will morning come, and what will I be like in morning? And, this is making me crazy. Like that feeling of overwhelm where it's in your throat and you're actually not sure you're going to make it through, but you make it through because it matters. And that little thing you're fighting for just like matters beyond anything else. I think there's lessons for leadership in that.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I'm curious which, what has surprised you about motherhood? What are you surprised about?
I am surprised how different each of my kids are.
Yeah.
It's like the dumbest thing. Of course, they're all different people. I recognize I'm different from my siblings. Like this is not rocket science at all. But somehow, I feel like other moms can identify with this. Somehow you think that you're just going to have like identical beings because they all came from you.
Yeah.
They are so different. I really think it has surprised me that from the beginning, they're just so different. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. And how do they, what are the current challenges you're facing,
sleep
with mothering? Sleep.
Schedules.
Yes, it's always sleep. When does it stop being sleep? Someone, please tell me.
I mean, 10 years. I didn't sleep for 10 years with my first two, and now I have a new one. So, 10 years.
You can sleep when they get older, but you worry more, so you need more sleep. So
there you go.
It balances.
See? Now, this I did not realize. Like when I got pregnant and people were like, sleep now because you won't be able to later. I thought they meant for a year. No, really, sleep now because never again in your life can you sleep.
So true.
It's a hard reality. But no, I also think that so sleep is my biggest challenge. But going back to what has surprised me and kind of marrying it with challenges, my kids are three distinct people, right? I have an 8-year-old girl, my 5-year-old son, and then my third is a girl. She's 2. So between my all 3 kids, they're all so different and they're at different ages. So some of it is like a 5-year-old brain is going through different, ups and downs than an 8-year-old brain and a 2-year-old brain. But also they're just different people. So when I'm trying to support Carolyn, my oldest, and sort of manage some of what she's going through, then I turn around and Russell, my son, is like on a different planet. And so suddenly it's like, I have to get in my rocket ship and like make it to that planet. What's the atmosphere like here? Like, do I need moon shoes or tennis shoes or like what's happening? Right? And you just have to do that and jump between their planets and somehow support them equally. Yeah. And so I do think that's an overriding challenge. And it's beautiful in its own way, but it's hard.
Yeah. Wow. What about the YWCA? As far as supporting parents, supporting you as a mother, how are the policies at YWCA for parents?
Yeah. Do your kids go to camp there, or do they go to daycare there, or how does that work?
So we have, to support our employees, we have a really, really good childcare benefit. And our employees get basically 60% off of our childcare services or more, depending on the wage they make. So one of the things when I started here is to look at our employee benefits and sort of tier them out to be richer for the lowest wage earners. Our wages span the gamut, right? We have frontline childcare workers, right? We have support specialists in our family shelter. We have all kinds of jobs that are really frontline service with, managers and supervisors above them. So we really run the gamut. And then we have like marketing professionals and, fundraising professionals and finance professionals. So we have a lot of types of employees. And one of the things that was important to me is to make sure that every benefit we have matters to every level of wage earner. So it's going to be richer for those who don't make as much. So that's an example is our childcare. We also have redone our paid family leave policy. It was inclusive of new mothers, but not beyond that previously. So, we have a policy now that includes caregiving. Women on average over their lifetime lose $350,000 in lifetime earnings due to caregiving responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And that's not just those weeks of newborn days, right? It's far beyond. We are called to provide care in so many different stages of life. And I think our workplace policies need to reflect that. Frankly, I think our government policies need to reflect that. The federal government still has not passed a paid family leave policy. And we have to stand in the gap for our employees. As much as equity-wise, it really should be government funded. You shouldn't have to win the boss lottery to have paid family leave, right? Or a child care benefit or all these things in between.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But to answer your question about my kiddos don't go to our program. They go to the Rec and Parks program. Because they're obsessed with it. It predated me coming here. And they love it so much. If I ever tried to take them away from Miss Tish and Tuttle Recreation Center, I would not hear part of it.
Yeah, I used to go there when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably looks the same as when you were a kid. I think it's...
Yeah, that mushroom.
Yeah.
Same. Yep.
Yeah.
And the pool, the Tuttle pool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's getting like a big redo here soon, I hear.
Yay.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. And we just actually talked with Just Choice. They were on our podcast yesterday, and so we heard about the exciting. I don't know if it's announced yet or if we're allowed to announce it, but the partnerships that you all are putting together over there. Yep. So.
By the time this is live, I'm sure it will be happening by then. I did just announce it to my board, talked to my board this morning. So we are very excited. And Molly, thank you for mentioning Just Choice. They are one of the really important partner organizations we have at the Family Center. The Family Center is our emergency shelter program for families with children. She is, and Just Choice's work really comes in to help support the women, pregnant people, parents at the Family Center who need them, right? And they have all kinds of needs and all kinds of desires for their future. And Just Choice empowers them to make choices about what that future looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're so happy that YWCA is in that you are with the YWCA and doing such amazing work. I'm just blown away. And I'm curious about the eliminating racism and the social justice piece. What parts of that are you most passionate about as far as like the work that y'all are doing right now? Just what are you most passionate about?
Absolutely. So I will say that the fact that eliminating racism and empowering women is such a central part of our work means we have to take it into every facet of what we do. So our frontline services are infused with a racial equity lens, with a women's empowerment lens, and that's on us. It's incumbent on us to ensure that. But we also, because a whole pillar of our work is social justice and advocacy, we are able to take the eliminating racism component of the mission and actualize it in new and interesting ways. In 2021, we got a donation from AEP to stand up the Center for Racial Equity, a massive donation to help us actually bring on staff dedicated to turbocharging, for lack of a better descriptor, our racial equity priorities. So out of that transformational gift, we've built a team of people who do justice, equity, and belonging trainings. This is a curriculum, up to 4 parts. This is a curriculum that empowers regular people to understand our history as a country, to understand racism, the part they play in it, and how to build a better future, right? How to repair the harm that's been done and build a better future. It's not a training for white people. It's a training for everybody. You know, when I say that it is a training about racism, that doesn't mean that we just, you know, tell white people about racism. There is a history in this country that everyone needs to know, because it really is personal to all of us. And we have the capacity now to train about 1,000 people every year under the Center for Racial Equity. And in fact, we just won a national award this year for our excellence in racial justice work by our parent organization, YWCA USA. There are 200 YWCAs across the country, and our work was awarded the National Standard of Excellence for racial justice. So Danielle Boyd and Phil Flanagan are the two amazing individuals who run that program, and they are our trainers. They also work on bringing restorative practices and racial equity mindset into the work of YWCA. When I went through the trainings, there's a sort of handout at the end where you're asked to think about your workplace and how well they incorporate the principles of our training. And it was so sobering to take a look and know that we weren't measuring up on all of it, right? We have 200 people who work here. It's really hard to put restorative practices into practice, restorative justice into practice internally without doing so very deliberately. And that is part of repairing the harm of racism and racial discrimination over time, right? So they help guide our work to be an even better organization internally too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. Practice every day.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how do people get involved? How do people? Are they able to? Or is anyone able to take the training? How does that work?
Yeah. So we typically provide trainings through employers. Because we have to be able to get a lot of people into a room to do these trainings. And anyone can talk to their employer about doing it. We do small engagements with employers as well. If you work for a very small nonprofit that has no budget for training, we do have a community training fund that we can access to help make sure it's accessible for employers and businesses of all sizes. We did a series with the city of Columbus last year where they were open. We did it with neighborhood area commissions, and they were open to residents, which was really great. We don't have the capacity to just do like a totally open call to all residents all the time kind of training module, but we'd love to recreate that in some capacity, right? To have that kind of open access. And again, if you think your employer is interested, there is a place on our website you can go to under Justice, Equity, and Belonging Trainings and be in touch about setting that up.
That's awesome. And
Nice.
the empowering women, can you tell us about that work? I mean, is that gender justice work? I mean, is that, can you tell us about that?
Leadership training.
Yeah, it's, so one component that also hits on, that really marries the empowerment of women and the elimination of racism is our leadership development work too. I forget if I mentioned that, but we have two major curriculums, Bright Futures, which is for high school girls, and then Leadership for Social Change, which is for young professionals right around there. People who are interested in social change. Our leader of that program defines her work as like just sprinkling change agents throughout the Columbus community based in our philosophy and understanding of creating social change. So I absolutely love that. It's what we get to do on an everyday basis. And you bet your ass that it is empowering to go through that process, right? So not only do like we as a community win from having change agents out there, but women and women of color feel empowered going through this process. So I love that about how we're creating virtuous cycles. But then also, I mean, in terms of our empowerment of women work overall, it just much like elimination of racism, it bleeds into everything we do. And it has to for us to make good on our mission. For example, our shelter that is downtown, it's a mid-rise building on South 4th Street. And we have 91 women who live here in a permanent supportive housing program. So this is formerly homeless women. It's federally funded, and that definition is they have to have been chronically homeless, which means, according to the feds, 3 months of street homelessness or the equivalent. So a shelter night counts as street homelessness, but staying on your cousin's couch does not count as street homelessness. So 3 months of really, really tough experiences, along with some co-occurring issue, maybe a substance use disorder, maybe a physical disability, et cetera. So we have 91 women who live here, and we did a massive renovation that was completed, I think, in 2016. So our women are not living in dormitory style set up with like a bathroom on the end. It's not a college dorm, right? It's real dignified adult living circumstances. Small, but still very complete apartments, studio or 1 bedroom. And they live here. It is a permanent solution. It's a project-based voucher program. So they have a voucher from the housing authority that they can take with them once they kind of, quote, graduate from our program. Graduating from our program is totally self-determined. They get to decide when they're ready to leave. We don't push them out. We don't tell them you're ready, see you later. They get to make that determination. And while they're here, they have the support of a service coordinator who helps make referrals. We don't ourselves do mental health care, but we refer to others who do, right? We bring in counselors on alcohol and other substance abuse disorders. And we try to provide that safety net for the women who live here so that they can grow to the level that they need to be able to then live independently. And then also on the empowerment of women, I mean, all of that policy advocacy that we do, all of our social justice efforts, again, go back to creating that better policy future. Last week, we held a canvas for issue 1, right? And we're a 501c3. We are supportive of issues, not candidates, but issues. And so we infuse that in everything we do and help women, and especially women of color, build thriving futures.
Beautiful. Yeah, we have a Canvas event with Ohio Women's Alliance and New Voices for Reproductive Justice happening this Saturday.
All right.
So that'll be like our first Canvas event. We're super excited.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since we support single moms over here at Motherful, what specific YMCA efforts are directly towards single mothering or help specifically that population of moms?
Yeah.
Even in your building, are there any moms in those 91, or they're all single women?
They're all single, and it's our program cannot take kids because they're all 1 bedrooms and studios. And frankly, it's really hard. There are family permanent supportive housing projects that exist. It is much harder for families to qualify to receive PSH than for single adults to. So there's a much larger prevalence of single men and single women geared PSH projects. And we could talk for like a whole other hour about the needs we have in housing in this community, right?
Right.
We wish we could get more families into PSH, but we're not set up for it.
Got it.
We do have families, though, exclusively at the family center.
Right.
So emergency shelter, we work with a lot of single moms. We support them every day through our case manager work, our family advocate work. So they're trying to stabilize families, get them a voucher if we can, get them employment if we can, the head of household. Or sometimes, we have heads of households, but, they might have their 17-year-old child with them and they're a family, right? They can come stay at the family center. And sometimes that 17-year-old is interested in building out an employment record, right? So we work with whoever is of age to work and help get them employment that they want and can access, and that too often there are barriers, right? And we have to help break down the barriers to employment too. Another key piece that we offer at the Family Center is on-site, totally free childcare. We have an early childhood facility. So you walk in the worst of circumstances, you and your 4-year-old and your infant have been evicted and you are not sure what to do. And you are now in this congregate homeless shelter, which frankly, I love our building and I love our people, but it is not where anyone wants to be, right? You don't want to be in a shelter in that circumstance. And it feels overwhelming to think, with these children, with everything I'm facing, how am I going to get on my feet? And what we provide immediately upon walking in is care for your children in a safe, beautiful, 5-star rated facility that's attached to the Family Center. And so every child under 5 before they're school aged, so under 6, every child whose parents want to, are enrolled in that program. Then for school age children, when they get home after school and parents aren't home yet, they have a safe after school program to go to as well, which is also in our childcare center. That I think that's one of the things we do that I'm the most deeply proud of. It sets us apart from every other shelter in our city.
Yes. I wanted to know your personal take on getting a universal pay for moms.
Universal, like basic income?
Yeah, universal basic income. Because we are really interested in that and think it would be, supportive to single moms, of course.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it in all your policy work?
I think it would hugely improve outcomes for the people we serve. We are actually really thrilled. We're part of a pilot that Community Shelter Board is doing. It's I wouldn't call it a UBI pilot exactly because it's not long term enough, but they are. We are working with families in what's funded by CSB to essentially provide $1,500 to that family, and that's their money, and that solves their problem. They find a house, or they find a place to live, or they don't get evicted in the first place, right? And then they're not entering shelter. And so often the barrier is just money.
Yeah.
And UBI would certainly, universal basic income would certainly do a lot to take care of the central barrier. I know it's not the only barrier. I know there are other things. I know there's transportation. I know there's all these things. But the central barrier is just not having enough money to live.
Right. Exactly. Yep. We're with you on that one. We're really hopeful to create some universal income for single moms as well. So
I love that you guys are working on it.
Yes, we are.
The Mama Trust.
The Ohio Mothers
Mama
Trust.
I like that.
No, the Ohio Mamas Trust. I always get it wrong. We have so many names jumping around.
Yes, Ohio Mothers Trust. So if anybody out there listening wants to help us pilot that, we're down. And keep us in mind, Liz, for those projects. We'd love to partner. So yes, our final question that we ask every leader that comes onto our podcast is, if you can imagine, a world post patriarchy, post racial capitalism, post colonialism, when mothers lead,
a utopia.
What do you envision in a world where the mothers lead?
In a world where mothers lead, I think we have a truly multiracial democracy. I think we have people empowered to choose the lives they want. So self-determination, but also community support. I think about my mothering wouldn't be possible without my village, right? Everyone defines their village a little differently. Your village is one thing. Heidi, your village is one thing. Lisa, I've got my village, and my mothering's not possible without my village. And imagine if, when mothers lead, right? If mothers were the leaders, I think that village would just be a normal human experience, that all of us would be empowered to have our village, embrace our village, be supported by our village. And if we're guided by our village, then, you know, we're healthier people, our stress goes down, the stress on our planet goes down. I couldn't even enumerate all of the ways I think that the world would be healthier.
Yeah, dream it with us, imagine it with us, Liz, and
it.
build it with us. We're doing that now. Matriarchy now. We thank you so much, Liz Brown, for coming.
You.
We love you, and we're big fans. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll have you back soon. All right. Take care, Liz.
I see the mothers marching. I hear the mothers singing. I feel the mothers grieving. I see the mothers leading. I hear the mothers shouting. I see the mothers dancing. I feel the mothers healing. I see the mothers